KFI AM 640 is later with Mo Kelly. We are live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. Another day, another plane collision. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. And I say this as someone who honestly does not like to fly. I do it because I have to. I do it because I want to see the world. If there was some other way that I could travel to Europe as opposed to getting on a plane, I would probably do it if it was comparable in the amount of time it would take to travel. Absolutely. I don't like flying. And I say that being very realistic about the percentages. You think of the thousands and thousands of flights which take off and land every single day. Every single day without incident. But there is something different right now. Now, of course, we are much more aware. We're much more sensitive to anything which may go wrong on a flight, takeoff, landing, near miss, what have you, because of what I would say started all this with the D.C. midair collision over the Potomac. And you combine that with the Trump administration firings of key FAA figures and NTSB and TSA. When you put it all together, yes, it's a topic of discussion every single day for varying reasons. But there is something different in the sense that we've had a number of incidents within a 3 to 4 week span. I would say more so than any time in recent history. Now, I say this as someone, and I remind people, my older sister worked at LAX for I don't know how many years, and I would hear about all the things that the general public did not hear about. So I know that there are things which go on all the time on these planes, issues which never see the light of day. And yes, if anything happens now, of course, the media is going to highlight it and people are going to run to the media to tell them about it. I get all that. But in the conversations with the people that I know who work at various airports around the country, they will tell you that this is different. And part of the reason it is different, air quotes, is because there is a staffing issue. There's a staffing concern, put it that way, as far as total number of FAA officials which are available, total number of air traffic controllers who are available, total number of NTSB and TSA people who are available, and not overworked, not understaffed. But here is the latest.
Let's get you back to that breaking news we've been covering this morning as we get you new information on a deadly plane crash in southern Arizona. Authorities are telling us here at ABC 15, 2 people have died after 2 planes collided just before 8:30 this morning. Now, it happened at the Marana Regional Airport, about 20 miles north of Tucson. A total of 4 people are involved. The FAA says 2 people were on board both planes. They're not specifying just yet who was killed in the crash or if the other 2 people involved are hurt. The FAA and the NTSB are sending crews to that scene as they work to figure out exactly why it happened. Scripps News Group is there on scene sharing updates here on air and at abc15.com.
Am I going to change my travel arrangements? Probably not. Probably not. I know I have to go to Pleasanton in July. I got to go to Miami in June. I got to go a few other places. I have to go to Miami again next October. I got to go to D.C. at some point in between. Am I going to change my travel and maybe take the train, which is going to take another 4 or 5 days? Probably not. Am I going to stop flying altogether? Definitely not. Am I more concerned now than ever before? Absolutely. You can tell me about the stats all day long. You can tell me, hey, you know, it's still safer than driving a car. Are there more fatalities as far as car accidents? I get all that. And maybe my concern is somewhat irrational. I wouldn't say it's a phobia. I would say I'm more afraid of bees than flying. Not joking, being very serious. But there is something different. Sometimes it's just the frequency. Sometimes it's the nature of what is happening. We've had all sorts of air issues from private, from commercial, you know, the small Cessna, things that we've not been able to wrap our heads around as of yet. We haven't found out everything that we need to know with the DC midair collision. We haven't found out everything we need to know with that private jet that went nose down into that Philadelphia neighborhood. So all these incidents in my mind are piling up, no pun intended, I'm not trying to be funny, piling up, and we don't have the answers to at least mentally and emotionally put ourselves at ease around them. Maybe it's rationalization where we can say, well, this happened because of that, or that happened because of this. And I know that I'm probably one of millions of what I'll call ourselves nervous flyers. Don't like it. Don't like it. I'm not saying I'm gripping the seat. I am saying it's something that's always on my mind every time I step on a plane. I say my prayer before we take off, and I say my prayer and thank you after we land every single time. Does it help? Hopefully. Hopefully. And I can't tell you that we won't have another incident in the next week or so, but the trajectory that we're on suggests that we will. I don't know how we get past this moment. I don't know. I remember, let me say first, good evening to Mark Runner. We missed you last night. I see you have a really, really nice haircut, high and tight.
Don't ever go from being woozy at the dentist to just walking into the barber and saying, hey, can I have a touch-up? Sorry, I don't have an appointment. But by the way, you're talking about plane flights. There have been, I believe, 13 crashes so far in 2025. It's February. I wouldn't get on a plane right now if you supplied me with Xanax in a Pez dispenser, okay?
I don't know what the workaround is. I don't know what the solution is. Is it not having an incident for 5 months? Is that going to make me feel better? I don't know. What is our employment situation going to be at that point? Are there going to be more firings and dismissals? Are we going to have even fewer people working at these key agencies to make sure that everything is safe and secure? I don't know. It's not about having fewer incidents. It's about knowing that we as a country are doing everything that we could be and should be doing to avert the next disaster. So if we go the next 6 months with nothing bad happening, that doesn't make me feel better if I know that people are still overworked and understaffed.
Yeah, it's not hard to connect the dots here. We didn't have a lot of plane crashes prior to this year. Now we got a bunch of them right in a row. We don't need to call in Columbo. Just one more thing, sir.
Well, but to be serious, I would still caution against trying to make a causal relationship, but correlation, that still matters. That's still important.
Yeah, it's still too frequent for my comfort. I really would not get on a plane right now. You're different than me because you're not lazy. You're driven to, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, yes, do things.
Yeah, I am driven to live in that regard.
Yes.
But when I say there's a correlation, in other words, I know that fewer people managing this situation is not a help or a solution to the problem. Not fewer people. And it doesn't mean that the hirings have caused these incidents. I know, though, the absence of all these key individuals in their key positions, they do nothing to help rectify it. It's later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640 live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. And when we come back, we got to tell you about the latest scam here in Southern California, and it has to do with towing your car. That's next.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And if you've ever had your car towed, it sucks. Let's say if you've parked in the Hollywood area, because you can park nowhere in Hollywood legally, especially in the neighborhoods. You will watch the tow trucks drive up and down the streets. They're just looking for you. And I've been towed once there. It sucks. They tow you to this yard, and it doesn't matter if you're there 30 minutes later. You have to pay like a day's worth of towing fees or storage impound fees. I don't know what it is, but it racks up very quickly. Or if you get into a car accident and you have to have your car towed, you weren't planning to have that accident, and your car may be towed somewhere you don't know where. The towing lot or could be 20 miles from your mechanic, or you don't know exactly how much that's going to cost you. Well, there are some criminals or would-be criminals out there who are taking advantage of that. And according to the California Department of Insurance, it is rampant where these towing companies are committing what they're calling vehicle hostage scams involving tow truck companies targeting motorists involved in traffic accidents. Here we go. This is directly from the California Department of Insurance.
The California Department of Insurance is warning drivers about scams involving tow trucks and body shops targeting accident victims. The scam involves a tow truck showing up immediately after a collision and offers to help by towing your vehicle to a body shop. They tell you which body shop they are taking your vehicle to before you have time to check with your insurance company. And they ask you to sign documents or tell you someone will call you. Then the body shop holds your vehicle hostage, forcing you to pay a large amount of money, typically not covered by your insurance, in order to get back your vehicle. Make sure you don't fall victim to fraud. If you're in an accident on the highway, verify with CHP or your insurance company who is towing your vehicle and where, and never sign any documents without understanding what the agreement is. For more information on how to protect yourself from this and other scams, visit insurance.ca.gov or call us at 800-927-4357.
That's basically it. You get in an accident, tow truck shows up, you sign some paperwork, and they'll tow your car to a quote-unquote legitimate facility. But it may be like a 2-day minimum that you have to pay for, or all these hidden fees that you have to pay to get your car out of tow. And I'm not even sure that that guarantees that it will be taken to the body shop or the next place that it needs to go. And then all of a sudden you're out of hundreds of dollars because let's say it sits at the towing location for 3 or 4 days. That's what I'm saying. You don't want your car to sit anywhere for any length of time other than the body shop. And one time I remember when I got into an accident, of course I was much younger. I didn't know any better. They towed my car to the this body shop that my insurance company would not cover. They didn't have that relationship with that body shop. So then I had to pay to have my car towed again to another location. And that stuff adds up very, very quickly. And yes, if you have ever had your car towed, you know what a pain in the ass it is going to be and most likely how expensive it's going to be. Have you ever been towed, Stefan?
Oh, I got a story.
Okay. Wait. Okay. All the kids are sitting around the campfire.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, here we go. Okay. So when I used to live in Torrance, I lived right next to, like almost next door to a Rite Aid. And the building manager himself said,
Wait, the one on Sepulveda?
Yeah.
I know we're talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
So he said, he goes, I'm kind of like, I'm not saying. I'm just saying. He goes, you can park your extra cars there, but I'm not technically telling you you're allowed to do that. So every single resident did that. So for the better part of a year, I parked, because I had the Uber car, I parked there. And one day, I'm going to work. It's about 5 a.m. I go there. It's gone. I assumed it was stolen. And
kind of, sort of.
And which is possible.
Yeah.
And then I found out that, they're cracking down on people parking in that parking lot. And I was one of the examples that got towed.
Was it explicit saying no parking or you will be towed?
No, it was just like, it was one of those typical generic signs that says, for towing, call A&H towing number 1-800, whatever. And that's all it had. And then I guess they just decided, we're going to start towing people. And I was one of the people that was the examples. And then they started putting it up in our apartment building that said, you cannot park there anymore because you will get towed. I got towed. I had to pay. Oh man. I don't even remember how much it was.
I would say what? How many days was it there?
Well, I parked there every day.
No. After it was towed, how long was it?
It was there for one day.
I say at least $300.
Pretty close, $385.
Okay, that's almost $4. Yeah.
And so my ex at the time drove me to the place, which, like you said, I'm in Torrance. I think it was in it was almost West Hollywood, but not there.
Oh God!
But we had to go all the way out there to get it and just drive it back. I was so mad, and even the guy, I felt kind of bad because even the guy, when I went to pay him, he goes, "Yo, this isn't on me. The company made us tow it. I didn't want to tow anybody." And I was like, yeah, I get it, man. It's not on you. But at least he wasn't like rude about it. But I was just so depressed and so angry. And I had to pay all that money. And I didn't make any money that day because I didn't go do Uber. I was so mad. I just went home.
That's a double loss.
Yeah. So Yeah, it sucks.
Ronner, I know you got towed at some point.
Well, before I moved here, I lived in Seattle, and one of the landmarks in Seattle is a thing called the tow truck. And it's a pink truck up on a pedestal with shaped like a giant foot with a huge big toe on it. And I really empathize with Foosh, because there's nothing more horrifying than coming out to where you think your car is and the car's just gone. You don't know it's been towed. It could have been stolen, or anything could have happened to it. And so you got to start with calling whoever might be at home, calling the cops, and then finally you follow the trail of evidence to realize that, oh, I have to make the walk or cab of shame to pick up my towed car. And it's always preposterously, insanely, like third world bribe expensive. Like,
yes.
You can't believe that this is a thing that's allowed to take place in the United States in the 21st century, but you got to do it. There's nothing you can do.
Tuala, I know you've been towed.
I have. And actually it was after an accident on the freeway. I was rear-ended and thrown into another car, and we were off to the side. And before I knew what was happening, a tow truck pulled up out of nowhere. A guy ran up on me and said, "Hey, I'm here to tow your car." He was talking fast, gave me his card, gave me some paperwork to sign. "Yeah, no, we're taking it over to the lot now. Your claims adjuster will call, blah, 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 blah." I'm shook, still spinning because of the accident. Come to find out that this guy took our car halfway across the city at a place that when I finally got to the car, it had been ransacked. They're like, "Oh, it came like this. There was nothing in it." One of those situations, and had to pay to get it out, and then also had to pay, like you said, to get it to the actual tow yard that was going to take care of it, because my insurance company was like, "We don't know who that is. That individual does not represent us. We don't know why you or California Highway Patrol, anyone allow this individual to just come up and take your car." I'm like, "Well, I thought he was sent out by the city or something. I don't know."
And that's what they prey upon. The first time, you just don't know the first time. Now, they won't ever get you again.
Never.
But they're looking for the person they get the first time. And look, these are lessons learned. Hopefully this is free wisdom. These horror stories that we've told and shared with you will hopefully protect you and prepare you so you don't necessarily have to go through these same nightmares. Free wisdom. Unless you want to pay for it. That's up to you. It's Later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640. We are live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. And when we come back, I have to tell you about a bonkers city council meeting in the city of Huntington Beach discussing a MAGA sign to be added to the library. Mind you, let me set it up like this. Mind you, Huntington Beach is the city that voted upon where you could not have any flags other than the American and state flag to be displayed on any city or government property. Well, we have audio from the city council meeting, and it's a doozy. We'll have it next.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
We all have slogans. We have banners, flags. We have signs that we put on our lawns. We have signs that we'll put on our car. We talked about bumper stickers yesterday. And obviously, whenever we have a sign, it says something about us, and where we place it says something about the place that it is set. If you were driving by someone's house and they have a BLM flag flying over their house, it says something about who is there. Now, whether that's positive or negative, that's up to you. But I'm saying, once you put that sign, once you put that banner up, you're sending a message, and people will receive it however they receive it. The city of Huntington Beach, they've had a very spirited debate. That's how I'll phrase it. The Huntington Beach Central Library is celebrating its 50th anniversary. And the city council, like many city councils, is quote unquote nonpartisan, meaning when you vote on the city council, there's not a D or an R next to his or her name. You're just voting on the person, regardless of whether you know that they happen to be a registered Democrat or Republican. You're not specifically and explicitly voting for that. Libraries, city government offices, they are not explicitly political. I think we can all agree on that. The issue here is the Huntington Beach Central Library, because of a unanimous city council vote, is going to install a plaque at the Century Library on Talbot Avenue in celebration of this 50th anniversary. And it says MAGA, magical, alluring, galvanizing, adventurous. Let's not insult anyone's intelligence, okay? It may say magical, alluring, galvanizing, adventurous, but that's not the message that it's trying to convey. If we went to a different city and they wanted to install a BLM plaque, and that's an easy comparison, and instead of putting Black Lives Matter, they put, I don't know, believing, loving, and magical on it, you're not fooling anyone, right? Same things here. And if you've never been to your own city council meeting, for your city, I encourage you to go. There's a lot of good information there that you should know about, and you won't be surprised by certain things. You are given a platform to be heard by the city council. You get your voice heard, and you get to enter in these debates. Now, this particular city council meeting in Huntington Beach happened last night, and there was a large contingent of people who came out specifically to protest this plaque. Not everyone there at the city council meeting was there in opposition of the plaque, but I'm saying most of the people who were organized to come out, they wanted to give voice as an opposition. I just want to play two of the voices, one for and one against, so you get an idea of what happened and what was happening in the chamber and what you could hear going on behind the speaker. This was someone who came up to the microphone, and he's wearing a Make America Great Again hat. So if anything, to him, the plaque is consistent with what he's wearing. He's not making any bones about it. That's what he reads when he sees that plaque, even though it may say magical, alluring, galvanizing, adventurous.
My name is Russell Neal, and I live in Huntington Beach. Look, I'm fine with this library plaque, but I am also amused at the expressions of dismay over its political content from people for whom everything is political. As to the petitions, while pretending to be about threats of book banning and library privatization, neither of which exist, we all know the actual motive behind these two disingenuous petitions is a strange obsession with using our library to push adult sexual material on minors.
Please let him speak.
We all know. I commend this council for its defense of our children and urge you not to cave to these petitions, but to fight them tooth and nail. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Next speaker, please. What has garnered the most attention is a particular speaker in opposition of the plaque. His name is Chris Cluey, former NFL punter, played with the Seattle Seahawks and the Minnesota Vikings that I can remember off the top of my head. And he went there with the express intent of being heard and also participating in civil disobedience, where he had what he had to say. Then he approached the city council members who were sitting like in a semicircle. Have you ever seen like a traditional like tribunal, how they were seated next to each other? And there's this big open area. I'm painting the picture for you so you'll know it when you hear it. And he sits down in the middle of the floor and basically begs the police officers. And if you go to any city council meeting, there's always tremendous police there. There were even more because this was a hot button issue. And you would see 4 or 5, I think, Huntington Beach police officers arrest him, and they carry him out because he's like passively resisting. He's not trying to help at all. He's laying down, and he's taken out and arrested. But this is what Chris Cluey had to say prior to being arrested.
Hi, my name's Chris Cluey, 15-year HB resident. I'm here to speak out against both the plaque and the current city council. As the community made clear at the Library Commission meeting last Tuesday, everyone is in favor of a plaque to celebrate the library, but the vast majority are against including a MAGA acrostic. Okay? Unfortunately, it's clear that this council does not listen, so instead I'm going to take my time to say what MAGA has stood for these past 3 weeks. MAGA stands for trying to erase trans people from existence. MAGA stands for resegregation and racism. MAGA stands for censorship and book bans. MAGA stands for firing air traffic controllers while planes are crashing. MAGA stands for firing the people overseeing our nuclear arsenal. MAGA stands for firing military veterans and those serving them at the VA, including canceling research on veteran suicide. MAGA stands for cutting funds to education, including for disabled children. MAGA is profoundly corrupt, unmistakably anti-democracy, and most importantly, MAGA is explicitly a Nazi movement. You may have replaced a swastika with a red hat, but that is what it is. I will now engage in the time-honored American tradition of peaceful civil disobedience.
Get the heck. Get out.
Now police have swarmed the stage.
Yeah, we're going to take a 5-minute recess.
And so that was the Huntington Beach City Council meeting last night. Probably a little bit more eventful than usual. I don't know if anything will be changed. As far as I know, that plaque is still going up, and it's going to still say magical, alluring, galvanizing, adventurous.
I think he lost at least half the crowd by using the fancy word acrostic.
Look, that went over a lot of people's heads.
Yeah.
I got it, but it's like, just use the $5 word, not the $25,000 word.
No, that'll really separate the wheat from the chaff. If you got somebody scratching themselves and looking around blankly, like, what did he just say?
Now, I don't know the demographics of Huntington Beach as far as all of their politics. I know that during COVID, we remember the protests in the streets regarding the vaccine. It's largely conservative, but at this particular meeting, the most vocal people who came out were in opposition to it. But I don't know if it changes anything. But I guess the takeaway is, go to your city council meetings because there's a lot going on. This is a perfect example that you may not agree with or you may want more support for. And that's a perfect example of how your voice can be heard. We always talk about effective protesting. It starts on a very basic local level, not in the streets, but in the chambers where the people are. And you can not only get heard, but you're on the record. And then quite possibly you might get city council to change. I don't know if that's going to be the case in this instance, but you might.
Microphones. I have been to a city council meeting and have fought for change. I fought alongside my colleagues to keep the car camping from taking place on our school campus because we were seeing the results and the fallout of that. When it was unchecked and unpoliced, the drug abuse, the violence, and things like that. And we saw the Chatsworth City Council shut it down. So I've seen firsthand the effectiveness. I've seen what that process is firsthand, how it works, how they govern, how they go about doing it. I am absolutely thrilled to have been able to listen to this playback from this meeting because I thought that the for and against, more the against, was just absolutely thrilling. I love it.
Hey, I've gone to city council meetings. I've gone to county supervisor gatherings as well, because if you live in an unincorporated portion of LA, city council, you don't have a representative city council member. So you have to go to the county supervisor meetings. And yes, they are effective. Yes, I went for actually something similar to you with the RVs, which are parking in the neighborhood and just for weeks on end and dumping their septic tanks and everything in the neighborhood. That was something like, no, we can't have that. And because of public pressure, they changed the zoning and they enforced the new zoning. So I highly recommend, regardless of your views, make sure that you are active in your local government. We always want to talk about what the president is doing. You need to talk about what's happening right where you are, right around your corner. It's Later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640, live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. When we come back, Kamala Harris, the former VP, she signed with an agent. In fact, it's CAA. You think, what? What is going on here? I'll tell you why and how it's not all that different, but it is different. What do you mean, Mo? I'll tell you in a moment.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And one of the big entertainment stories is also one of the larger political stories. And there's a reason for that. former Vice President Kamala Harris has signed with CAA, arguably the biggest talent agency in Hollywood. And people would say, what? I mean, is she trying to monetize her political career? Yeah. Every former president and every former vice president, that's exactly what they do. Here's the way it used to be, and I'll show you how this is slightly different, but it's the same. It used to be you'd have someone leave office, and it is true for governors and senators, but on a much smaller level, but definitely with presidents and vice presidents. He or she would leave office, and then they would go on the speaking circuit, or they would write a book, a memoir of their time in the office of president or vice president. And they go on the speaking circuit, and they would command, I think like George W. Bush was commanding anywhere between $30,000 and $35,000 per speech, if I remember correctly. It's not uncommon. And they would go to your kids' college graduation, or they would speak at the opening of this building or whatever, but they would have 3 or 4 speaking gigs a month, and they could easily pull in $500,000 to $1 million. So it's lucrative. It's a way that most former politicians ride off into the sunset, and they retain a degree of celebrity. That's the way it used to be. But back then, you would have a speaker's bureau that you'd sign up with, and that speaker's bureau would pitch you out to various universities and events to have the former president come speak. You would write a book, your memoir, then you would have a publicist or a publishing house go out and promote this book, and they would send you out on different events. Now, since there's really no line of separation between politics and entertainment, where you have, and I talked about this yesterday, you have these folks who are basically entertainers who then become politicians. Well, they're looked at in an entertainment context. We know the Obamas, they left the White House and they had their Netflix deal. This is the way it's being done now, because we know that where there is a book or memoir, there are also television rights attached, which will immediately be turned into some sort of documentary or TV show. And this already happened in the music industry. They call them 360 deals. Now you're finding politicians, they have their own kind of 360 deal where they will leave office, and then you have an agency like CAA, Creative Artists Agency, where they say, okay, Kamala Harris, you don't need to have a speaker's bureau. We'll take care of that. You know, if you're going to write a book, we'll publish it and make sure that we publicize it for you and make sure we'll set up all the interviews and stuff that you do. CAA would do all that. In other words, substitute Kamala Harris for Tom Hanks. It's the exact same thing. They would handle all of the media appearances. They would handle all of the products or whatever they're selling. If it's a book or it's a movie or a documentary or a script that they've pitched, all of that. Because there is money to be made, because politicians are now celebrities. So having the customary book publisher or the speaker's bureau, CAA said, no. We can do all of that, and we can do it better than Random House. Sorry, but everyone knows Random House. No. We can do it better than so-and-so speaker's bureau. Because why? We're CAA. We have all the relationships. Oh, you have a book now, Kamala Harris? You know what? Why don't we take it over to Warner Brothers Studios and get that place so they'll probably play it on Max. We'll actually develop the show talking about your life. We'll turn it into a biopic. And CAA will just handle that. Why? Because they have all the relationships. It's mutually beneficial. And you will find this for every single major politician going forward. This shouldn't surprise you, but this is why it's happening, because now entertainment and politics have coalesced in such a way there's really no line of separation. It's part of the reason why entertainers feel that they can be politicians, going back to my discussion of Stephen A. Smith, and how politicians know that it's very easy to then move into entertainment. I mean, let's not forget, you had President Trump showing up at the Super Bowl. You had President Trump showing up at the Daytona 500. And if anybody understands this, well, it's Donald Trump coming from an entertainment background and then using that as a springboard for politics. And when he leaves office, assuming he does, if he ever does, he will do the exact same thing. Exact same thing. In the way that he's already monetizing. He has his crypto meme coin right now. He'll just do it in some other way, but he'll do it after he leaves office. And it's the conventional way of former presidents and vice presidents spending their time and generating income after they leave office. It's just now very different. There are more opportunities which are afforded to him or her or them, where they're not relegated to just writing a book and just speaking at universities. When I was at Georgetown, I think we had then President Reagan spoke at one of the graduations or one of the speaker series on campus. I know we had George H.W. Bush, Senator Bill Bradley spoke at my graduation. That's what they do. They go on the speaking circuit and they end up at different colleges and universities. But now there's so much more available to them where you might see them in a commercial. You might see them show up in a cameo role in a TV show. That's what you should expect.
Doesn't it kind of make you wish that they had all this stuff when we were kids? Like, I would have loved to see Nixon on Dancing with the Stars.
If the media was then like it is now, Richard Nixon, would have never resigned, number one.
Well, that's true, too.
He never would have resigned. And even if he did resign, he would not have lived a life of reclusivity. He probably would have been out there and been a celebrity in just a different way.
Oh, he would have had his own podcast right away.
Right. He wouldn't have needed David Frost. He would have had a podcast and he would have been able to monetize that, and he would have been able to have all sorts of sponsors. Look, Hillary Clinton, she has her podcast, which was doing very well. And prior to her, I don't think there wasn't anyone on her level, on a political level, who tried to enter the podcast space. Gavin Newsom has his own podcast. That's how all of this is moving in that one particular direction of blending entertainment and politics. It's later with Mo Kelly. KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
Prepare to be stimulated. KFI
and KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live.